So before I go any further, allow me give you this insight. Do you know that number 10 is related to testing, a test, because it is 10%, right? 10 is a test. How? The commandments were how many? 10. They were supposed to test us. We see that Pharaoh was being tested 10 times with the 10 plagues before he had to release Moses and the Israelites. When you read Matthew 25, the 10 virgin girls were tested for preparedness. When you go through Daniel chapter 1 especially, you'll see that Daniel was tested 10 times. When you look at Jacob, 10 times Laban was misquandering his wage. His wages were being exchanged 10 times with Jacob. In Revelation chapter 2 verse 10, there is also 10 days of testing there. The Israelites were tested in the wilderness 10 times. So a tithe, which is 10%, is to test your heart and my heart. God just wants to test you. So having put that in mind that it is a test, and if you pass, you are directed to a greater reward, which are blessings, of course. I didn't like to talk about Malachi 3 because it is very known to everyone, but I can't pass it because it really says that even God himself says, test me in Malachi 3 from 8 to 10. Test me with your tithes, with your 10%, and you will see how I will not open up the windows of heaven, the floodgates, such that the blessings in your house shall not have room to occupy. It is all about it. Now one is going to ask me, if I don't tithe, am I not going to be blessed? No, you will be blessed, because it is not only by tithing or offering that you can be blessed. There are a lot of things. And by the way, not every tither is even blessed. First of all, you have to be righteous with God before anything. So for those ones who are going to murder and kill and steal, and those ones who are getting money in ways that are not right, and you tithe, you're not going to get a blessing out of that. That's why one time someone was telling me that there are some rich men in the world who are really helping, like the poor in Africa. They are really helping them, supporting them. That they are very sure that God is going to, bless them so much. God doesn't look at how much you give him, because you can't even outgive him. The best thing, sacrifice that he wants from me and you, is the heart, is living righteous with him, is to love him, is to act faithfully with him. This one takes us to, I'm going to again to read in Matthew 23:23. How did Jesus talk to those scribes and Pharisees who were tithing? And see how he said, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites." Those are the ones who are very rich, the current ones who are very rich, politicians and everything. The Christians who are not living right with God, but they are thinking that they are tithing and offering, giving too much of money, giving too much of their increase is the rightful thing. No, sweetheart. The rightful thing is this: you ought to do to be righteous first before you think of giving God. How is it? For you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, which are justice and mercy and faithfulness in God. This you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. What you ought to have done is to tithe. But you were supposed to first be just. You were supposed to be first merciful and faithful with God. He talks it about in Luke chapter 11, verse 42. But woe to you Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and pass by justice and the love of God. This you ought to have done without leaving the others undone. Now, where were the Pharisees tithing, by the way? This takes us to the where do you take your tithe? Because there is a contradiction whereby others want to take to the beggars at the streets, wants to look for the orphans or the widows, wherever may be in their families or other cities or anywhere. But where were these scribes and Pharisees that Jesus even reproached? Where were they tithing from? Continue to verse 43. Woe to you Pharisees, for you love the best seats in the synagogues and the greetings in the marketplaces. So they were taking this tithe to the synagogues. Everything that talks about the tithe is actually talking about taking it to the church. Not to the street kids, not to the beggars at the street. Because what is the use of the tithe? The tithe is used to help the people in the kingdom. That's why when you go to Nehemiah chapter 13, Nehemiah chapter 13, yes, I think it's verse 10, you will see that he says, I'm going to read from verse 10 up to verse 13. I also realized that the portions for the Levites had not been given them, for each of the Levites and the singers who did the work had gone back to his field. So I contended with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? The house of God is the church, whereby the Levites, the singers, the ministers, the deacons, or whoever, the pastors, were forsaken. And they had left the work of God because, first of all, the Levites were not working at all. They were doing full-time service in the church. And then they were forsaken. They were not having anything to eat, So they had to leave the work of God and went to his own field to work. So the first important reason for your tithe is to help the people who are working full-time in the church, in the service of God, in the ministry of God. You people think that serving God is no work. It is very, very great work. These people have to write books. That one needs money. These people have to do crusades in different regions or countries. That one needs money. You're helping in the spread of the gospel. These people need also to eat. They need to live like you do. You want to drive Porsche cars, but you don't want your pastors to drive. You want to put on good suits and clothes, but you don't want your leaders, your elders, your pastors to dress the same way. They are human beings like you. And that's why God really made it so clear that the Levites, who are your pastors, are supposed to live on your tithe. It is very, very clear. And I don't see the reason as to why you are still contending about it, that they are misusing your tithe. Okay, I'm not supporting them because of those who can really use the whole tithe again on themselves, buying your whatever you call it. I'm not supporting them, but I mean they have to have a share on it, and then the rest they have to help the widows. Because the church has orphans. A real church, a real Christ-based church has orphanages, has widows, has dependents. So they are supposed to collect your tithe, get what they are supposed to live on, and then the rest spread it to the needy. How is it supposed to be here? Let us continue. I'm in Nehemiah chapter 13. I'll read from verse 12 again. So I contended with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together Ah.